Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic was the first step towards the destruction of BioWare. Decades before Mass Effect's squid-headed transsexual love interest named after bowel movements pinned protagonists to the ground and belched reconstituted Somalian jizz vapors into their face like a married feminist rewarding her pet new male after an especially triggering day at the shitty blogs that nobody reads but are disproportionately promoted by the Jewish owners of Twitter, YouTube, and television networks anyways, factory. Prior to Dragon Age's hard game Minotaur man drunkenly bragging about his ability to crush a man's shit-covered fist into a quantum singularity using only the power of his horrific scratched from the inside by hamster anus, and whipped out his disgusting yam bag studded with diamonds made of highly compressed prostate pudding to prove it. And before the complete financial failure of the studio due to the unpayable snack bill levied against them by SeaWorld in their valiant yet utterly hopeless attempts at satiating Jennifer Hepler's gaping maw. The slivers of degeneracy present in Knights of the Old Republic slipped below our collective radar. Despite my fond memories of this masturbatorial friendship simulator for boys too timid to talk to girls in real life, without the crutch of quick loading and quick saving to fall back on when they accidentally whip out their penises before locking the basement door, a feeling of dread swept over me as the latest patch tried to force me to play as one of an assortment of John Boyegas. When the random name generator suggested names one wouldn't normally encounter outside of a morning roll call at the local state penitentiaries didn't do nothing but stab a white woman in the ass with a screwdriver section, I knew something was off. In this, Star Wars, Please Be My Friend and Tell Me That I'm Special Edition, you play as Mullet Man, the hockey-haired savior of the universe, Jedi Gina Grabber, and part-time Fruit of the Loom underpants model extraordinaire, on his epic quest to piece together a completely nonsensical star map that could never possibly function since celestial bodies are constantly in motion in their orbits as well as expanding outwards, then cause a union strike on a glorified Galactic General Motors assembly line, then finally disappear into the background until having his entire history and characterization torn to pieces decades later by a shitty cash-in MMO that nobody asked for or played. Joining our hero is an impressive litany of such original characters as Chewbacca, but with less lines, R2-D2, but with less beeps, and Bender from Futurama. For no particular reason, there's also Canderous, who's supposed to be this amazing Mandalorian mercenary, but once you get him away from his boss on Taris, he's more than happy to just laze around the Ebon Hawk like a brother whose wife kicked him out of the house after catching him trying on her best Sunday dress on a Thursday. Causes your throw pillows to stick together because he keeps having front and back wet dreams as he sleeps on your couch. And seriously, Laquimbo, it's time for you to move the fuck out. I love you, baby, but I'm tired of having to explain to the neighbors why there's suddenly a second red dot on my trailer in the sex offender registry. Joining everyone's favorite drunkle is Juhani, the scrotum-shriveling abomination who resembles a third-degree burned progeria kid, stricken with a crippling combination of full-body stretch marks and sickle cellulite. And sometimes when she talks, you'll wonder if she isn't the one that stole Malik's jaw. For real, this bitch's Mark McGuire jaw is so big she could bite an entire loaf of bread, yet still have less yeast in her mouth than in her kitty litter encrusted twatto. But don't get me wrong, I'd still pull her pussy lips over my head like rabbit ears and bounce her around the Ebon Hawk like a syphilitic hippity hop. Juhani is just that special blend of available and ugly enough to put up with my particularly incriminating style of sexual exploitation. Though, after busting that initial nut, I'd probably rather fuck the Wookiee's hairy butthole while pretending it's Yoko Ono's massive bush than go back for a second round. This overgrown cross-dressing bat boy tempts you from the start to kill her almost as much as my second wife. Luckily, there are better options for parking your midnight meat train available for the discerning player. Mission: whose name is short for Nocturnal E-Mission, is the most attractive blue-skinned woman I've seen since the anchor chain slipped off my second wife's ankle and she washed ashore. Though the Twi'leks in general are a degenerate race of beta males and filthy whores who swallow so much cum that their hair has turned into gigantic sperms, I'd still tie Mission's head reins around the small of my back, just above the tramp stamp, and pump so much pulsating pink pelvis parmigiana down her throat, she'd turn from as blue as my balls when I forget to pull the cork out after hurrying past the contradictorily named Home for Morbidly Obese Starving Homeless Women on my way to the parole office, to as hot pink as my napples on a crisp autumn day after the application of a fresh coat of pepper spray and several ultimately futile tweaks from an exasperated, morbidly obese homeless woman. Due to the amazingly high concentration of oxygen lovingly bundled with every sperm, due to the gangrenous holes left over from that time I told a bitch with meth mouth to play my pecker like a flute, and she bit finger holes in my shaft with what was left of her Gollum from the Lord of the Rings styled teeth. However, for the more refined gentleman, I cannot help but recommend Bastilla as a superior waifu for lifeu. Though this expert at handling white-hot throbbing stabs momentarily turns evil after Juhani accidentally drops a turgid toxoplasmosis turd in her completely different type of cat box, Bastilla's pussy is so tight she could snort sand and queef out pearls. While certain dummies might think that this Mary Poppins clone with less interesting superpowers is important to the plot due to her in cutscenes only battle meditation ability, the more dignified connoisseur will realize that Bastilla's most defining trait is her unquenchable thirst for cock. If she swam the entire length of an Olympic-sized pool with her head underwater, she'd be less pleased to take a gasp of life-giving air upon reaching the other side than having a fat, veiny dick plopped into her pie-hole. After distracting the protagonist with her titties long enough for a goddamn starship to snipe him, then fucking with his brain while he's in a coma, Bastilla causes the protagonist to have confusing dreams about her, just like I did when playing this game as a child. Though for some strange reason, the player character doesn't wake up covered in shredded clothing, hot pink semen, and partially crushed baby teeth. Rounding out this slew of filthy bitches who stand in the way of progress like a registered voter with even the slightest amount of life experience is Karth, the emo Han Solo wannabe who acts like a 13-year-old boy who was repeatedly molested as a child, and still flinches every time you innocently pull out your dingus to press it against the soothingly cold window of an idling short bus. You can also play with Jolie Bindo, the grimy nigga who's lived off the grid so long he wipes his ass with discarded Wookiee corpses after fucking them. Highlights of his contributions to the plot include pretending to be a slave on Korriban, showing up to court late for a murder trial, and stabbing Juhani in the ass with a screwdriver after mistaking her for a white woman. This ragtag group of ethnically diverse after-school special kids is opposed by old Darth Jewel Cup, aka Malik, whose name is actually short for Malacking a Lower Jaw. This stupid fuck watched too many episodes of Ed, Edd and Eddy and destroyed his chin by biting a mouthful of Jawbreakers, and menacingly minces around while wearing a red onesie pajama like an old-timey gold prospector preparing to go to bed. And frankly, if Retainer Boy wanted the dark taint so badly, why didn't he just start wiping from back to front? Assisting Malik is a crew of highly trained, mustache-twirling Scooby-Doo villains, who all pretty much die in one hit if the player has any semblance of what the fuck they're supposed to be doing. See these little plug-looking things called stimulants? Pop enough of these futuristic bath salts up your butthole, and you can probably destroy the Starforge just by slapping it in the face with your dick. Much in the same way I destroyed my relationship with my gran-gran. KOTOR's gameplay begins with an incredibly dull and drawn-out tutorial where you will be forced, no pun intended, to avoid leveling up, unless like me, you utilize a mod. Unfortunately, try as I might, I could not find a mod to replace Juhani's face with something more aesthetically pleasing, like a flaming dog shit or a close-up JPEG of that hole in Hillary Clinton's tongue through which the souls of Haitian children are directly absorbed. KOTOR is generally one-half dialogue, wherein everyone you come across wants to discuss their precious fee-fees like a passive-aggressive girlfriend who mistakenly believes she wants to talk to you about that groaning sound wafting up between the floorboards of the bathroom, but really needs to either mind her own fucking business or figure out a way to break tensile steel with her bare hands in the very near future. The other half is murdering everyone who disagrees with you during dialogue, including killing people by overloading their own computers like the CIA during election season. Honestly, this first night of the Old Republic game has a pretty childish idea of what is good and what is evil. While the Sith are justifiably considered evil for nuking the Jedi Enclave from orbit, you, the savior of the universe, get good goy points for brutally murdering every single person in the Sith Academy, including initiates who hadn't even officially joined the program yet. There's also the morally gray Cellcast species to consider. This race of slimy, demon-worshipping fish people pretend to be neutral in a war that they're secretly perpetuating and profiting off of both sides of. At first, I thought this similarity to a certain other group of God's chosen peoples was surely a coincidence, although, the moment I began to ponder these thoughts, the game shut itself down. Overall, Knights of the Old Republic is a fairly good role-playing game that leaves the player with many lingering questions, such as, what about the days of the Old Republic? Or even the sultry afternoons of that Old Republic, baby. Why is the Jedi Enclave located on Dantooine? Why not Bob Tatooine or Juanita Tatooine? Which is a more appropriate name for this Black Yoda, Yo-Dog, or Yoga? And perhaps, most importantly, will BioWare ever make a game that's family-friendly and devoid of crippled purple Puerto Rican male-to-failed male transsexuals shooting their gender fluid all over the fucking place ever again?